Thanks, Richard and Bruce, for coming. We know you're both experienced. You're both great storytellers. I think you're both salesmen by profession, so...
Bullshitters, is what I'm trying to say.
That's your words, not mine. I thought I'd start off an introduction with a bit of a quote, which I picked up today. The key to safety in sailing, especially when you sail solo, is not the gadgets, but it's the proficiency earned through time and experience. So I think that's what these guys will talk about. It's not the gizmos you've got, but it's experience. And I've sailed with both of these guys between Mooloolaba and Harvey Bay in their trips, and they are experienced and they are safe. So, cheers. First question, Richard, can you tell us a bit about your current boat and your previous boat?
The boat is called Etre Jeune, which is young, to be young. So it's young at heart, whatever. It's a Hunzi 445, and getting to the features that make it salient to sail by yourself. Being a more modern yacht, a lot of the rigging and what have you is all, or the trimming and what have you, sails and what you have to do when you're sailing, can be done from the cockpit, like 99% of it. The boat also has a self-tacking headsail, which allows you to tack without having to have someone wind a genoa in, which is handy. So it's very easy to sail that boat by yourself. The previous boat that I had was a Bavaria 37. That was my first keel boat, and a wonderful little boat, very easy to sail as well. But you had a genoa type headsail, so it was a little bit more, when you're tacking and stuff, you had to use the autopilot to tack, and then you had to run up and wind in the headsail and all that kind of thing to keep going.
They're both big boats. The Saloon,
well,
Bavaria's 37 boat, 8 tons.
Well,
and the big one's what, 12 tons?
Joshua Slocum was in a 37 footer, so not really. It's about the right size. 37 in my mind would be it's a really good boat. Good size. It's got enough room, and it's and it's
Any cruising speed?
Cruising speed in the current one, I rely on 6.5 knots as my average cruising speed. It does about 10 or 12 when you're really fanging it, but yeah, that's what you sort of hope to get.
Bruce?
Good evening. I don't normally cruise solo with a pair of crutches, but I had a little accident earlier this week, and that slowed me down a little bit. And the sad thing about that is I was going to have the boat parked out there, and I was going to spend 2 weeks in Pittwater straight after this gathering. But guess what? Not going to happen. I have a beautiful, it's come up in some of those pictures, a Dufour 385, which is a French-built boat built in La Rochelle in France. The one I have was actually in charter for 3.5 years in the Greek islands, and a guy bought a couple of them and shipped them out to Melbourne. A mate of mine rang me one day and said, "Mate, I want to do a delivery. I want to bring this boat back from Melbourne." I didn't actually. He said, "I want to deliver this boat back. Do you want to give me a hand?" I went, "Yeah, where are we coming from?" And he said, "Oh, Melbourne." I went, "Oh, okay, going to have to pack another couple of pair of shirts then." And so my first experience with the boat was actually sailing it from Melbourne to Sydney. And the guy had it for 3 or 4 years. I've actually had it for 10 years now. Okay, so it's a 385, weighs about 8.5 tonne. It really is in my mind, a good size boat for solo cruising because it's not too big. I've done a couple of cruises with people that are here, Bill Dixon and Lyndon, and their boat is similar size. And I think it's a really ideal size for a single-handed sailor, and a bit like this bloke, Richard. You've got to be well set up before you go. And so all the sheets come back to the cockpit. I can actually crank a winch and hold the wheel at the same time. You've got to have your boat well prepared to do that thing, and this particular boat that I have is certainly set up in that regard.
And you got furling sails?
Yep, that's one of the features that I like about the boat is it actually has a furling main and a furling headsail. So when it gets a bit rough, you just crank it in a bit. And I've proved the value of that on many occasions. I think the best features are the rolling main and headsail. My boat has twin wheels, so when you're docking it, it makes it a lot easier. It's pretty well set up in terms of an autopilot, and Alistair asked us what upgrades we did, and so I put solar panels on the boat, put AIS, which is I think imperative if you're sailing on your own with a splitter. I put a new autopilot on it, which is sort of a combination Raymarine and BNG RAM, and that has been, I couldn't sail without it. It is just so good. And then other things like a full bimini, battery chargers, the chart plotter, which is connected to the autopilot. All those things make sailing long solo miles possible and safe.
Richard, tell us about how many trips you've done up north and what's the furthest you've been.
Okay, so we've done 4 trips, and I started in 2019 with the Bavaria, and it was really exciting because it was sort of like a real adventure, like what was going to happen and how's it going to work out. But and we got back, and I think on that trip, on the way back from Emery, I met up with Bill and Lyndon at Trial Bay on the way home. It was about a 9-month, what I called a sabbatical, because it was I'd turned 60, and I thought, you know what, before I get the walking frame, I'm gonna do something. So yeah, we went up there, and it was just an eye opener. It was magic. It was really got me enthused with the whole thing, because it's such a fun thing when you do that by yourself. It's a real you feel good about it, and I love the thrill of going to an anchorage, and you got a nice little house that you get at the end, and you can sit there and have a glass of red and cook your dinner and look at a sunset or whatever, and explore what's there, and I just love that whole thing. It suits me down to the ground, and then you go for a walk up the top of the hill or whatever, So it's a wonderful lifestyle, and it's what I found on that trip. There's a lot of people doing the same thing. There's like thousands of people doing the same thing, and when you sort of get on that circuit, like typically what happens for the going north, April, May is kind of the typical like launch off from the eastern states, from Sydney or whatever. And when you get up there, you'll go to an anchorage and you'll see a whole lot of the same people, and you'll talk to them. And then usually around what I found around Great Keppel Island, they start having the sundowners kind of thing at the beach, and it's pretty much a folklore thing for cruises. About 4 p.m, everybody gathers on the beach with their tenders, and then all the stories start, and it goes to about 8 o'clock, and then everyone goes home or whatever,
And did you get visitors on your boat?
I had Alistair, and
Me too.
and yes, it's an interesting thing because talking about the solo part of it, it's a tricky thing because you organise a whole lot of people, and one thing with boats, you can organise where you're going. You can't organise when you're going to get there, and so that's a real challenge, really. Yeah, it's for everybody, and Bruce will back me up on this. So you think, oh, okay, we'll have these people here and those people there, and then when there's a timetable, you can almost guarantee that timetable will be affected by weather, something or whatever, and so you're running around chasing your tail, trying to meet and exceed these timetables, or you get stuck in a place waiting around. But that's sort of part of it. That's all part of the logistics of the whole thing. But yeah, I encourage anybody that wants to do it. Like, it's a fantastic thing to do. It really is. It's one of those. I mean, caravanning's wonderful. I love it, but there's more freedom, I think. It's something that so far they haven't been able to like stymie and corral us into not being able to do, like sailing somewhere, putting your hook down in a suitable place and enjoying it. There's not many places that you can do, or many, I don't know, medias or themes that you can do that. It's just a wonderful thing, Just like the people did like 150, 200 years ago, sort of thing, you know. So it's great. Take this away, otherwise I'll keep going.
So the question was how many sailing trips I've done. I started sailing when I was about 12, bought my first boat at 18, and I've been sailing ever since, and I've never lost the passion. The question...
You said you never lost the boat.
I've never lost a boat either. Part of one of the questions was, what's the furthest north you've got? Well, that was actually New Caledonia. We did a Sydney to New Caledonia yacht race, and that was fabulous. When I first bought Amazing Grace, we sailed it from Melbourne to Sydney. I've done numerous sailings around the local area, as well as several trips with Dave to Hamilton Island and deliveries back and forward. And we've taken our boat, Amazing Grace, through to the Whitsundays twice. And we're here to talk about shorthanded sailing. I actually ended up taking it about halfway up with one other crew, and then I actually sailed it from Roslyn Bay through to the Whitsundays on my own, solo, and that was pretty good. That was pretty good. It wasn't stressful. The worst part of it, and I'm saying this for my wife's benefit, the worst part was leaving my wife and my beautiful children and grandchildren at home while I sailed the ocean seas.
Heartgrow's fonder though with Everson's. Everson's makes Heartgrow fonder.
I believe that too. When I was a kid, I wanted to sail around the world, and that never happened because I met this beautiful girl and married her 47 years ago, and so I didn't sail around the world, but together we've sailed in the Greek islands, we've sailed in Tonga, sailed in Croatia, we've sailed in Phuket and Turkey. So although we haven't sailed around the world, we've sailed in a lot of parts of it, and that's been fabulous to see other parts of the world. Now look, if anyone wants to sail in any of those places, these days you need what is called an international bareboat skipper's licence. And unless you have one of those, you can't actually hire a boat in Europe. So I'd just like to put it out there, if anyone wants to do that trip and they need a skipper, give me a call. All I need is an airfare and food for the 2 weeks, and I'm there. I also have a coxswain, which makes it a little bit easier to understand your requirements. Sailing in company, the first trip we did to the Whitsundays, we were joined with Bill Dixon and another friend of ours, Octavia, and that was terrific. That was really good. We'd talk in the mornings about whether the weather looked good, and then we'd go. Part of that trip I was on my own, and occasionally one of their crew would jump on my boat to share the day. But that was really good. Every evening we'd anchor off and enjoy a sundowner together. And those two crews became really good. The three crews became really good friends. So sailing in company was really enjoyable. What have I got? Passengers and crew. So when I got to the Whitsundays, of course, once you're there, everyone wants to visit. Oh, you're in the Whitsundays, I'll come. And as you'll probably see, well, this picture's my boat up on the slips at Boatworks. And I did that on the way up. Soon after that, I had my beautiful grandson Ty on board for a week. And then when I finally got to the Whitsundays, my family came up, a couple of my children came up, various friends came up. I love having them on board. The only downside is when it's time to come home, as Richard was saying, everybody's busy. 3,500 kilometres on your own. What could possibly go wrong? And I can tell you more about that. How many miles have I done in one day? I was having a look through my logs at about 148, 150. Our boat's a lot smaller than Richard, doesn't go as quick, but it's comfortable and it's safe. One of the questions was about your favourite anchorages. Wow, so many in a lifetime of sailing, and I'm sure a lot of you have been to, and I'll just rattle them off. Refuge Bay and Wilson's Promontory, Long Beach and Jarvis Bay, fabulous. Pinta Bay and Pittwater, Fame Cove, Port Stephens, magnificent. Horseshoe Bay and Peel Island, anyone ever been there? Just magnificent, beautiful. Gary's Anchorage, Long Beach in Great Keppel, Pearl Bay, West Beach and Middle Percy. Who's been to Middle Percy? Okay, you know how good that is. North Beach in Curlew. And one of my very all-time favourites is Thomas Island. Thomas Island in the southern part of the Whitsundays.
Well, can I interrupt? That's because the charter boats can't go there.
That's correct, but very beautiful.
And what about your worst anchorage, the rolliest, really, you know?
I'll give you
bad.
So the worst one I reckon, the worst one I think is it's something you got to. It's part of the pain is you leave Mooloolaba or I leave Tangalooma, and you get to Double Island Point around the corner, and you sort of have to stage yourself to go through the Wide Bay Bar, which is a fairly long, arduous, about a mile, the Mad Mile, and you have to wait in a place called Rainbow Beach, which doesn't matter what it is, the swell wraps around and you roll like the proverbial rolling pin. It's terrible, but that's just what you got to put one night in there, and hopefully the rule of thumb is 15 knots or 1.5 metres of swell. Anything below that you should be, and obviously with a run the tide right, you go and do the bar crossing.
So the question for you was, what's your most miles in a day? Obviously you're a quicker, faster boat, and there's one of the slides up there on your autopilot. It's got you going 16 knots. So you're going to travel a long way in a day, are you? Tell me a story. Yeah.
Okay. So typical solo sailor day. I started from Yamba, and had all the rag up, the main and the jib and the whole thing, and it wasn't much wind, and then it got a bit breezier, and we're starting to move now, a bit breezier, and I ended up going into Coffs Harbour, and I was when that happened, when I sort of had the chart plotter sort of recording the whole thing, and I was wondering why the autopilot wasn't really handling it that well. And hello, it's 33 knots, and I've got full sail up, and that's the result. You're doing 16 knots, a bit of fun, and you had to plan an approach like landing an aircraft. You sort of did a jibe, and I've got the Walden boom brake that saved the bacon there, because that thing, mate, when that carbon main goes across it, it's a freight train going across, and you need to break it down. You need to dampen the amount of energy in it. And did a jibe in 33, and then over we go, and pin it into Coffs.
Okay, I've got a question here. What are your strategies for sailing solo and short-handed?
I think one of the important things is being prepared and knowing your capability. I've been sailing all my life. I hear people talking about heading off, and they've only had a couple of years sailing, and really they've got no deep-rooted experience in what they're going to face. I think being prepared is all about knowing your boat and knowing your boat is going to do what is required, whether it's blowing 5 knots or whether it's blowing 40 knots. My beautiful Amazing Grace, which you've seen on the pictures there, it amazes me in terms of its capability to one of the very arduous sails we had, we were punching into a 3-metre sea with 30 knots, and the boat was fabulous. The crew was hopeless. The crew was just not coping, being me and one crew member, but the boat was coping well. So I guess my tips would be things like always make sure if you're on solo you've got your life jacket on, you've got your PLB on, somebody knows where you are, your radios are intact. If you're going to run into bad weather, that you have your meals prepared, and we'll talk more about that shortly. But it's a case of being ready for what you could face.
My strategy, the main strategy, it's like if you're really playing a good game of chess, you're playing about 3 or 4 moves ahead. That's the way you want to think. You're working with the future. You don't worry about the past. You're working ahead to mitigate things and do things and whatever. And it's the old adage, like if you need to reef, well, it's already too late. But we all do that. That's all part of it. One hand for the boat at all times. Like I have jack lines on, but I've got to be honest. I'm not really too thrilled on safety stuff. I just try and make sure that you're a human being, you got a brain, and for Christ's sake, use it and make sure you're safe. Just hold on. Don't do anything stupid.
Oh, there's a slide behind, actually, fish and food. So you've sent me all these photos. They've got lots of big fish in. Are you a really good fisherman, or is that a one-off?
You don't have to be.
Good luck.
I think I'm a proof of the pudding. You don't have to be a good fisherman up there because there is lots of fish, and that.
And sharks.
I haven't struck.
That was a bronze whale.
Oh, okay, that's your one.
Running down the Whitsunday Passage.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's just basically a lure line out the back. Typically, it's a little bit tricky when you get something and you got to like.
You guys are both good cooks on board?
Oh, we think we are. Yeah. I mean, we've had Bruce on there at Stonehaven. We had a chase down for. Yep.
That was it, I think.
Oh, that's your lamb shanks, believe it. Yeah, we had a chase down for I had some really good steaks, so we had to go and hunt down oysters. This is the Bruce part of it, and it was like the Leyland brothers. So we Bruce found these oysters and we shucked these damn things on my boat, and then we had a steak and oyster and whatnot, pretty good meal. And we thought it was all right, wasn't it?
It was fabulous. Some of these other people that know me will tell you that I like cooking on board. I don't think it takes that much longer, and so there's nothing for me to be halfway sailing somewhere and then put on a baked lamb dinner. And if it's not that, it's lamb shanks you saw on the pictures. I love eating well, and therefore I've become a pretty reasonable cook. We were talking about fishing before. I did catch a large Spanish mackerel on one occasion coming into Curlew, and I can tell you that I've had fish curry, fried, grilled, tacos, had fish every which way, and sadly I still didn't eat it all. But I do love cooking. I remember on a particular occasion sailing into Great Keppel Island with Bill just in front of me, and I got a call on the phone, and it's gone, Bruce, are you awake or are you having a poppy nap? And I said, oh no mate, I'm downstairs cooking. And he said, I haven't seen you in the cockpit for like an hour. Well, as it was, I had a zucchini slice in the oven, I was cooking a fruit cake. I said, but you're more than welcome to come for dinner when we get there. So I'm pretty big on cooking at sea, but once again, it's about being well prepared for it. Our boat has a 3-burner stove with a grill and an oven, fully gimbaled, and providing the conditions are fine, I can cook a 3-course meal while I sail. I might add a tip for potential solo sailors is, if you know there's going to be any amount of weather, pre-cook whatever you need. I will cook pea and ham soup, I'll cook spag bowl, I'll cook whatever, have it in the freezer, and in fact, when the rough weather hits, you've only got to warm it up. Now, there's a bit of a story. Has anyone ever seen one of these? Okay, well, I went sailing one time with the guys on Why Not, and I bought one of these on, and they went, what is that? And I said, well, this is a steak and kidney pie. And they went, you've got to be kidding. Anyway, I've got to tell you, they have never, ever let me forget it. And in fact, this particular one, I think went to the Whitsundays and back. And
deck cargo.
When it got back, David presented it back to me as a medal of, you never used it. Now, there may be some contention about how good it is, but if you take the lid off it, they're okay. I do know another sailor, and he's not here today, but he is a member of this club. And when
Bruce, just for clarity, it's a pie in a tin.
Yeah.
Good luck with that.
Thank you. They're actually okay.
So, hey Dave, it's not happening. Is that what you're saying?
There is a sailor. There is a sailor here, and on arriving back with doing a delivery trip on Why Not, we opened the cupboard, and it was full of Maggi noodles and tins of spaghetti. Now I've got to tell you, as you can see by those pictures, I don't cruise that way.
How's your spice rack?
Oh, Spice Rack is full. Anyway, so I think cooking is a big part of cruising and an enjoyable part of cruising, and I certainly love it. I just missed a quick one here about your most arduous trip. I'd just like to tell you a little story. When we were coming back from the Whitsundays last year, we got to... somebody heard that I was having a bit of battle because the weather wasn't great. Some of you might know Vicky Weeks. And Vicky rang me and said, I bumped into your son. He tells me you're not travelling well. I went, oh, I'm travelling okay. She said, I need time off. Can I come and I'll help you sail the boat back for a week? And I went, oh, yeah, okay, that'd be good. So with that, she arrived into Mooloolaba on one of the most dramatic evenings I've ever had. And I'll tell you how dramatic it was. We'd been pacing with Why Not all day, and I was about 7 nautical miles out, and we got 30 knots out of the southwest. So we were plugging straight into it. Now, my boat doesn't do that well, and so that took about the next 3 hours. It got dark, incredible horizontal rain. So by the time I had to come in through Mooloolaba, I could hardly see where I was going. Just to add to the flavour of it, I got a bit disorientated, hit one of the steel channel marks, bang! And so I was a blithering mess. And so I'm on the phone and Vicky's going, this is the marina berth, you've got to go into, turn right now. So almost without seeing, I turned right, managed to get into the berth. The Why Not boys are there. I'm not into this, but David came up and he said, mate, you look like you need a big hug, come here. And I really appreciated it. Anyway, the trip didn't improve dramatically. We had a couple of nice days sailing, but we left the Seaway at Southport with a forecast of about 24 hours of great weather. Nor'easter, 15 to 20 knots. How good's this going to be? We had a run down the coast till we got to Cape Byron, and at Cape Byron, it suddenly started to build, which wasn't due till 6 o'clock, and we were hoping to get into Iluka. Anyway, within 2 hours, it had built to 2.5 metre seas and 30 knots. And it was like we're tacking, and I'm happy to show you the graph, back and forward up the coast. And Vicky said, so if we don't get into Iluka, what do we do? I said, well, I'm not going back, so get yourself sorted, because we're just going to have to push on. We got to Iluka, it was dark, and the sea was breaking right across the entrance. And I said to her, you know what this means, don't you? She said, oh, I don't want to do this. And these are the downsides of cruising shorthanded. Anyway, we tacked out to sea in this horrific conditions, heavily reefed down, waves coming over the boat. We were both drowned. So I said, look, we'll take it in turns. I'll sleep for 20 minutes and you put an alarm on so you don't sleep for more than that. So that's about the time it takes a ship to come over the horizon if it's doing 15 knots. So the alarm would go off every 15 minutes and I'd wake up, look at the AIS, look at the sails, make sure the autopilot was doing what it should, and I would go back to sleep. And then she would wake up the next time. Our trip from Southport to ended up being Coffs Harbour was 38 hours. Now, any of you are sailors, you'll know that is an extreme time. To finish the story, got into Coffs Harbour, put the boat in the marina, and I said to Vicky, I don't know about you, I'm going home. So with that, we tried to book a plane flight, $800 out of Coffs Harbour. So I said, yeah, I don't know, maybe we can get the train. Well, we managed to get a train, $68. And I took a book thinking I'll read. Literally, I sat in the seat, and the next thing I heard was, you'll be arriving at Strathfield Station in 5 minutes. Anyway, it took a long while to get over that. I haven't actually done much sailing this year, but with every good story, there's a couple of tough ones in there.
All right. So you told us your next trip's cancelled. It was next week. Yep. Richard, what's your next trip?
Yeah. So we've done the north thing a couple of 3 or 4 times now. So I'm planning to go to Tasmania after the big boys have done their thing at the Hobart thing. So somewhere between the Christmas festivities and the New Year. Because if I go down then, my partner, who's a teacher, has promised she'll come down in the school holidays
Pressure on.
and enjoy some of the delights of Tasmania. So, yeah, it's. I mean, I went down with Alistair and John to the Wooden Boat Festival, and what a beautiful place, and you know, just some.
That's why you're checking out the marinas and the moorings.
Well, of course. So yeah, it's. I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be a pretty good trip, I think.
Your heating system installed?
Yeah. So while I was down at the Wooden Boat Festival, I cruised around there was like a mini boat show type of thing there, and there's a company down there in Signet that do Diesel Heat Australia, and I put a hydronic diesel heater system in, which the idea is it heats the hot water for you, so you can. I don't like putting the diesel engine on my boat very often. I don't like to turn it on. I like to sail, but I get requests from the fairer half. I want a hot shower, and shit. I'm not going to turn the engine on for a hot shower. So now I can press a little button, and I see on the screen, and a little whiz like a jet engine starts up, and then it's like you get hot water in about 15 minutes, and everybody's happy. It's fantastic. So yeah, and then of course you got cabin heat as well. So now being a bit of an old softy, near the end of the day's sailing, when it's a cold night, I go down and I press the button, the whiz sound, and the cabin's all like 25 or 28 degrees or whatever you want, and you can sit there in your scunnos by yourself. It's great. So I'm a bit of a thrill seeker, so I do all sorts of crazy shit. But I went through the Narrows, which is something that you really want to get. There's a world of pain if you get it wrong, but if you get it right, it's quite an elation, if you like.
And that is Gladstone to...
Yeah, Gladstone through to, to effectively GKI. Typically you end up out at the Great Keppel Island or Roslyn Bay or whatever. So with that one, it's just a matter of like sometimes local knowledge and what have you, because Queensland has, up that area, the tides are very, very big springs, up to 7 to 8 metres, especially around Broad Sound and Thirsty Sound. That's where it's real. It's like a convergence zone where super tides. So most of the bar crossings, which is what you got on the New South Wales coast, that's just a matter like, yeah. Well, one thing about a bar, it's always different every time you go through it. That's one thing. You think you don't want to be cocky about it and say, "Oh, I've done that. That's easy," because it's going to be different the next time. But bars are typically most of the bars, the navigable bars, are not shallow. They're like 6 metres or something, but that's not the problem. It's the wave pattern is the problem, and naturally you want to get the tide running in your favour, and everything working in your favour is what you want to try and achieve. And sometimes you have to plan your trip so that you arrive at a location at the right time for the right tides and stuff. So that's part of the whole strategy, if you like, But Queensland, so New South Wales is bar crossings, and just got to watch out for the odd rock and what have you, that sort of thing. The Queensland coast is shallow. Queensland, you can be like 6 miles out and it's like 3 metres. It's crazy. Like especially Bundaberg and out round there, and Moreton Bay, of course, if you sail Moreton Bay, it's an underground, like it's just, you have to be in the shipping channels most of the time, because there's two people out there. There's the people that tell you they haven't hit the bottom, and there's the bullshit artists, because everyone's hit the bottom. And I've done that in Moreton Bay in the Bavaria, and I was like right out in the top end of the bay, like where it's ocean, and I was traversing across, which is kind of a bit of a no-no, but that was the first trip. And shit, it's not very nice, because you're out there in the middle, and you're hitting fairly hard stuff. Bit of a worry, but that's just off the shipping channel. It's really something for the New South Wales sailor. You wouldn't be used to it, so you have to be very mindful of it. Obviously you got your charting and what have you, and you have to really plot for where you're going. Once you get past, say, Moreton Bay, Bundaberg, all that area, it can be very shallow and quite a long way out.
They vary dramatically. If you go to the marina in not Lemon Tree Passage, Salamander, you're paying $120 a night, but you've got ensuite with gold taps. So there's a big variety of facilities. Newcastle has got some beautiful facilities, but that's up around the $70 a night. Cheaper in the caravan park, but yeah, they're pretty happy to have you there. And we found that although we pre-booked a couple of marinas, particularly Hamo, if you're going to stay in Hamo, you want to be pre-booked, particularly around race week. Otherwise, you're just never going to get a booking. My brother was up there this year around Hamilton Island race week, and he had to come back in a hurry, and he could not get a booking anywhere. Mackay, around the Whitsundays, had to take the boats through to Townsville to get a booking, and it was kind of like the last berth available. So I know when we travel with Why Not, Graham's very thorough in almost booking every marina. I tend not to do that. I'll book the important ones, and most of the other ones are okay.
Just to follow on that, like obviously from the safety aspect, you're going to radio on to Marine Rescue, which you have to in Queensland. They don't have a app like they do here, but it's also good to radio on and get used to using your radio. And then when you're in some of those areas are actual shipping ports, like Gladstone and Mackay and even Newcastle, right? That's when you get onto VTS, the vehicle transport systems. You talk to those people, usually Channel 13 or something like that, and you say, I'm sailing vessel such and such, and I'm making an approach. Am I okay to come in, sort of thing? Because if a ship comes out of Newcastle, probably not the best time to come in when it's going out or whatever, So it's just a matter of you get used to that. It's a bit of fun. Yeah, so that's part of the strategy is like fitting in with the system, like how it works, and trying not to be
Right. If there's no last questions, we might just put it over to Bill for a last few words. Thanks, guys.
All right, I'll see if this works. These two soldiers have talk all night, and that's the trouble when you get on board their boat.
Stand in there, mate.
Oh, right.
Well, I think we have to have another session on the on who's the best meal cooker and entertainer. That's another series.
Gordon.
I was going to actually say, and when you get on Bruce's boat, and after a couple of drinks, he brings the cards out, and he's got this fantastic game that he starts playing with you on cards, and the rules suddenly change. So one night, me and Graham Amy got hold of him and nearly threw him overboard. We were so fed up with him. Anyway, it was great to hear those cruising stories, and like I said, these guys have got stacks of stories to keep on telling you and keep you informed. But certainly, cruising is a way of life. It really is. And there's a saying that goes around, which I put on both these guys because I think they're both great mates to go cruising with, is stay out there until you can't. Yep. Anyway, all the best to you two. Thanks very much for a great talk.
Good on you. Thanks, Bill.